Hello beauties, and welcome back to the Bumpy Bones Locksport channel. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can create your own custom turning tool. And in particular, I'm going to walk you through how to create my version of a universal tension tool. Now, what is a universal tension tool? A universal tension tool is a tensioning tool that you can use in a variety of situations. So it will have a bottom of the keyway tensioner and a top of the keyway tensioner. And what's really nice about like this design that I have here is that using it as a bottom of the keyway tensioner actually works pretty well. It's a nice long profile. You can extend your finger all the way. But what is even nicer is the top of the keyway tension. You can actually adjust the angle that you have here or the twist that you have here, and you can actually factor in some ergonomics in with it. And so if we go off the top of the keyway, you'll notice that the tensioner is already angled a bit. And that's really nice because the standard top of the keyway tensioners that you get out of a set like with a Z-bar and all that are straight. And so you don't have that angling. So it's kind of nice having that with the universal and all that. And one thing that I am learning is as I'm progressing in my lockpicking journey, I'm working on now purple belt and higher belt level locks. And I'm actually finding making my own turning tools at this point or my own tensioning tools at this point is becoming very critical and very, very useful. So for example, I'm working on this ASA Alloy 600, which is a purple belt level lock. It's a 6-pin lock with barrel pins, and I'm progressive pinning it. I'm currently on 3 pins. But if I want to use, like, say, the standard tensioning tools here, if we go with the 0.8 millimeter, we have way too much play with it. And the rule of thumb with tensioning tools is you want to use the tensioning tool that fits the tightest, and that gives you the tightest fit in your lock. Because that's what's going to give you the most feedback, that's what's going to give you the most control, especially when you need to start doing like counter rotation or manipulating the core as you're picking in order to defeat different types of security pins and all that. And so if we go with, say, like 1.3 here, or 1 millimeter, well, that's still too loose. And if we go with 1.3 here, 1.3 fits, but it's still kind of wobbly. And one thing that I run into is with the standard tensioning tools, a lot of them have these little cuts in them, grooves in them, and that's to make it so that they fit in a wide variety of locks. And sometimes it makes it too small. And so, for example, if I come over to our PACLOCK 98 Pro here, the top of the keyway really is kind of designed not to play nicely with top of the keyway tensioner. So if I go with the 1.3 here, the 1.3 isn't going to fit. So if we go with the 1 millimeter, the 1 millimeter is going to fit, but that knock, what will happen is as I'm picking, it might slip into this little groove here and kind of go off like that. And especially if I use a thinner one, the thinner one definitely will go off. Now, a lot of people pick the PACLOCK 98 Pro like this, but if we use a custom tension tool here, so if I go with, I think this one will work nicely. Nope, that one's a little bit too big. Let's go with one of my thinner ones. This is 2.5 millimeters by 1 millimeter. This guy fits in here really nicely. And it does have a little bit of wiggle space in it, but it still fits really, really well and all that. And let's hear about this guy. Oh, that one's a little bit too big. Let's hear about this. This one might fit good. Yes, this one actually fits the best. So what we're actually going to be doing, you can see I've got this in here now, and I can turn, there's no wiggle. And so if I'm picking this lock, this is going to be the width that I want. And this is a 2.8 millimeter by 0.8 millimeter bar. So we're going to make a tensioning tool out of this so that we can use this in our PACLOCK 98 Pro here. So let's go and get started with that. Now, the tools that you would need, there are a lot of different tools that you can get. The tools that I would recommend is a good bench vise like this. I find a bench vise like this to be very useful in Locksport. It allows, especially when you're doing tool creation in that, it just allows you to really kind of hold material and work with it. I do a lot of work with this. A pair of vise clamps would work nicely, or a vice wrench will work nicely. This will help you twist and bend the material. A regular pair of pliers is always nice. Having a caliper, a digital caliper, is very, very handy. And of course, a permanent marker or a dry erase marker, just something to mark the material that you're working on, is always good. Now, what can we make our tensioning tools out of? You can use a lot of different materials. I've seen people use bike spokes, I've seen people use nails, I've seen people use the bristles from the road cleaning machines, and a common material is windshield wiper blades. So, here's a windshield wiper blade that I got from my Honda CRV. And just the one thing I'm going to say about these is not all windshield wiper blades are made equal, and they're a very thick metal. These are 1.24 millimeters in thickness, which is kind of like the max thickness that you would want. And so, for example, I have one here that I made out of the windshield wiper, and what I had to do to really kind of make it handy for a bottom of keyway tension was file the head down to 1 millimeter in order to really make it useful and all that. I also tapered it and did some other nice things. So if you're going to do a lot of work on it, the windshield wiper blade material is good, but it's also a very, very stiff metal and is prone to break. And that's one thing that you do want to be very careful of when you're making your own tensioning tools, is that the material that you use, you want to be really, really aware of its properties. So if I was going to be using this, what I would want to do is use a hand torch to heat up the area that I'm bending in order to make it more pliable, and that way I can bend it and minimize the risk of breakage. Now, the problem with that is that when you heat metal, you're softening the metal. And so what you're going to want to do afterwards is you're going to want to re-harden the metal. So you're going to want to heat the metal up and then quench it, probably in an oil. You don't really want to quench steel in water, because if you don't do it right, it will fracture, and then as you're using it, it will break and all that. But what I find to be the best tensioning material that I have found so far are a do-it-yourself kit or set that you can get through Moki. And I'll include a link in the description to the product. But what is really nice about the stock that you get from Moki is that they're all kind of pre-cut to the same length, so you don't have to really worry about, actually I don't want to say to the same length, because let's actually see, yeah, roughly about the same length. You get some longer, some shorter, but as you can see, they're roughly all the same length and all that. But you get different widths and different thicknesses. In fact, I went through and I measured these, and there's 4 different sizes in here. You have a 2.5 millimeter by 1 millimeter. There's a 2.8 millimeter by 0.8 millimeter. That's the one that we're going to be working with today. We got a 3 millimeter by 1.3 millimeter and a 3.25 millimeter by 1 millimeter. But what I love about these is the metal that is used in these. It is a very strong metal, but it is also a very pliable metal. And so it is really easy to bend and really easy to manipulate. But I have not had a single problem using it as a tension and applying tension with it and it rebending in that. It's actually really, really cool and all that. I made a few. This is actually the second set that I have bought. I'm actually probably going to buy another set just kind of keep on hand because I really like this material. And I have not had one of these snap yet as I am making the tensioning tools. And what I'll do is as we're going through making it, I'm going to grab some other stock that I've got that's of a different steel and show you that snapping and what you really kind of want to watch when you're doing this type of work and all of that. So the one thing that I will definitely also recommend is if you don't wear glasses, definitely do have eye protection with this because, you know, even though I haven't had the metal snap with this, there is a possibility of it as you're bending and twisting things and all that. So, you know, it's always best to have protection, you know, eye protection on with this. I am going to wear gloves just because, you know, that's just kind of, as I'm doing this type of work, I do just like to keep my hands a bit clean. So, I am going to throw some gloves on with this. And let me actually grab some of that other stock that I was thinking about, which is right over here, so that I can kind of show you the difference with it. So for example, this is a another tensioning blank set that I got through Peterson's, and you can see the difference in the metal. Um, just visually and all of that. You know, this is a much stiffer material. I would almost say that this is high yield stainless steel and that this is a spring steel. Spring steel is really what you want to make your tensioning tools out of. That to me is the best material for tensioning tools. High yield stainless steel is really good material for tensioning tools, but it is very, very stiff. So if you're going to be bending it, if you're going to be manipulating it, you're going to have to heat it in order to ensure that you don't break it. It will break a couple of these just to show the point and all of that. So, okay, so for the first step, what we want to do is we want to do the top of the keyway tensioner first. All right, and that's actually really easy to do with a bench vise and all of that. So what we're going to do is I want about 10 millimeters for the bend. So I'm going to take my caliper here and I am just going to make sure that we're 0. And then I'm going to measure out 10 millimeters. And it doesn't have to be exact, but I find 10 millimeters is kind of the perfect um, distance for, you know, getting into the keyway and getting over the lips of like the casing and all of that. So we're going to do that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark my tensioner. So we're just going to do this. I'm going to pop the cap off my permanent marker, and we're just going to put a little mark there. And I'm going to put this in my vise, and I'm going to take it to that mark. Move the light here so that we got some light so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to bend it forward. Now, what I'm going to recommend is that when you're bending, you don't want to keep your fingers right at the edge here. You actually want to give yourself like a quarter of an inch. And the reason why you don't want to bend it right at the edge there is if you don't give it space to flex, it's going to snap. And so often what I'll do is put my finger a quarter of an inch high, and then I'm just going to push forward. So you can see, you know, the space that I have here. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of push down. All right. And so we're going to just push that forward. And now what I'm going to do is raise it up in the vise just a little bit. All right. And I'm just going to push it forward, just kind of get a nice angle. We're going to check that. Let's go ahead and do that again. All right, and what you can also do at this point to get kind of you don't need a perfect 90-degree angle with this, but if you did, what you can do is you can take your vice grips here and just grip it like that, and then you can use this to get a better angle on that. But again, we don't want a 90-degree angle with this. So now what we want to do is we want to twist this for the top of the keyway. And so the way that I do this, again, using the bench vise makes this really easy. I'm just going to put this in here, and I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch, I would say, out. In fact, let's measure that real quick just to see how much space we're leaving here. So let's go ahead and let's change this over to inches. Let's go millimeters. So I got about 6.5 millimeters up on that. And what we're going to do is now just take this and we're going to twist it counterclockwise. All right. And what I do when I twist is I'm going to use this finger to keep it straight. And I'm going to use this hand to just twist it. And I'm going to pulse. All right. I'm not just going to take it and crank it. I'm going to do it little by little. All right. Because I don't want to snap the metal. All right. So I'm just going to work on that and just kind of twist it. And you can do this in terms of going as far as you want, because this is our top of the keyway tensioner. And so if we say bend it too far, what you can do is you can always bend it back a little bit. And so now if we take this and say we would just want to test it real quick here and do top of the keyway tension, we can see, we got a nice little angle here. So, I think that works good at that angle. I don't think I want to have that go any further. It is coming out a little bit further than the other one that I have, I think. Let me just check. Oh, that's actually about the same. So that's great. All right, so now we're going to do the bottom of the keyway side of it. And that actually is really easy. I usually do 18 millimeters is a good width. Now for me, if I take this off just real quick, on my vise here, I actually have kind of a way to kind of determine it. I usually just put this in to be the bottom there. And if I measure the width of this, it would help if I unlocked my... We're looking at roughly about 19, so about 20 millimeters. All right, so I don't go all the way to the bottom, but it gives me about an 18 millimeter head on that. So that's typically the way that I do it. This part of the measurement is really kind of a personal preference for you. The one thing that you don't want to do is make it too big. I find 20 millimeters to be kind of like the max size that you would want to use. So what we'll do is we will go ahead and just measure out 18, and I'm just going to do 18 because that's what I've got written down on my notes here. All right, so here we've got our 18 millimeters, and what we're going to do is I'm going to mark our tensioner here. And we're going to bend this the same way that we bent the top of the keyway side. So we're just going to insert this into the line, tighten that, and then we're going to push it forward. Now, I always go the opposite way. So I want the top of the keyway pointing towards me. If you look at some other universal tension wrenches that people have done, some of them don't use the longer bottom of the keyway tensioners or lengths that I use here. And they do it all on the same time, so same side, so it looks like a U. I kind of like the Z design. That's just my preference and all that. You can go any direction that you want with it. You can even keep them at an angle. This is the nice thing about making your own custom tool, is that you can really do what you want with it. So let's go ahead and bend this. So I'm just going to take this and bend this forward. And again, I'm just going to take it nice and slow. And I'm just going pulse, because I don't want to snap it. I don't want to put too much stress on that. All right, let's check the work and see what's happening. All right, it's looking nice and smooth. Let's go ahead and finish it up with this by hand. So we're just going to do that. And this one I like to have more at a 90 degree. Again, that's just kind of my preference and all that. All right, so there we go. And let's go ahead and compare this with the other ones that we're working with here. All right, so it's a little longer, but not by much. So, you know, again, 18 millimeters I think is going to be kind of like the max that you're going to want with a tensioner and all that. Bottom of the keyway tension. So there we go. So this right here, you could just actually go through and just start using. You know, you can put that in there. We can see it works really nicely and all that. However, what I like is I like a little flare, and also one thing that I do like about doing the twists here is that when I do use it as a top of the keyway tensioner, for me, my finger rests right against the twists there. And so what you're going to want to do is you want to measure that out. So we're going to do top of the keyway tension, and then what you can do is mark kind of right in the middle where the thumb is. And that's where we want our twist. Now, for me, again, this vise that I've got is really nice in terms of kind of the default measurements. Because what I find is that if I'm going to take this off again just so I can twist and turn here. If I just put the tensioner in like this, that's kind of the perfect spot for the twist for me. So I don't really need to measure it out. I just hook it in at the bottom, and then that just gives me the perfect distance. Again, if you're cutting your own stock, or if you're using different stock, you know, measuring it would then be a little bit more important. But for me, I'm using the Moki one, so I'm making it really easy for myself. So that's one of the benefits of that. So let's go ahead and get this tightened back down here. And let's apply our twist in here now. So we're going to do that. And actually, let's see here. I'm just going to rub off that mark that I did because it's a little different. Actually, what's going to happen is our twist is going to be up here, so that's going to work out perfect. So now there's a couple of different tools that you can use for that. You know, if you do get like with Peterson, or you can get this through other vendors as well. This is a tension making tool. What you can do is this hooks in, has these notches that can hook in, and it actually does make twisting these guys a lot easier, but these can be a little bit pricey. You can do the same thing with pliers. We're going to use pliers with this. Now, what I do is with the twisting here, this is where you really want to make sure you give yourself room to work with. Because if you say go too far down and you twist too much, you're going to snap the metal. So for example, let's go ahead and grab a stock here. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to grab this guy here. And just to kind of show you what I'm talking about, if you don't give yourself enough room, if I go right down at the bottom here, well, actually this one's going to cooperate. All right, so that one cooperated. But now if I go to twist without giving myself enough room, I'm trying to break it, but this one's being malleable and all of that. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead and do this double twist that we're going to do and see if we can get it to break. You gotta love it when you're doing videos. So I'm going to actually come down closer here because I want this to break. So I'm going to really exaggerate my motions here, and I'm just going to go quick. And we're going to go all the way around, and yep, so there we go. I didn't give myself enough room. And that often is the major cause of failure when you're making your own tools. All right. So when you're doing twisting or bending, you want to know how much you're doing so that you know how much room to give yourself. So what I do with this twist, in order to get the double twist that I have here, that's actually just one full rotation. And so I find giving myself a finger width works. And so I'm just going to put my finger here, and I'm not going to go right up against it. I'm just going to go up just a little bit. Yeah, right about there. And I'm going to clamp that. All right. And now I'm just going to go counterclockwise one full turn. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go slow, and I'm going to pulse. All right. So I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to relieve. I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to let go. I'm going to just keep doing this motion. All the way around, and take my time. All right. You don't want to rush this part of it. All right, so now that we're at this part here, what you want to do is you want to just check your alignment. All right. So I'm going to just kind of look around just to see how we're doing. I think we're doing good. All right, so let's see how this twist came out. And it came out pretty good, actually, I would say. Nice and even. It did. Sometimes when you twist, what does happen is it can kind of offset the the tension tool a little bit. So the way that I work with that is I will use the vise to kind of help straighten this up again. So I will just kind of work with it over time to get this to be a little bit straighter. It does, when you're doing twisting work like that, you do want to just kind of keep that in mind. There was our mark from where the finger will be. So if we go with top of the keyway here, we'll notice that we're actually pretty close to where my finger is on that. So that was actually a success and all that. So there we go. We've got a universal tension wrench, and if we go and use this with the PACLOCK now, this is going to go right here. A nice tight fit. Should just go right in there. Sometimes getting it in there can be the fun part. Come on. It worked when we did the concept of it. There we go. Yep. So there we go. We got a nice tensioning tool now for top of the keyway tension with the PACLOCK 90A Pro. Alright, so I hope everybody found this video to be very informative. As always, do feel free to like and comment on my videos and subscribe to my channel. And I hope everyone has a beautiful day, and I will see you all later.